Hello, everyone. This chapter is about some really interesting information. Um, Evolution, species, interactions, and communities. Um, Begins with Darwin's voyage, case study about the Galapagos Islands and all the interesting things he found out there. And evolution, adaptation, that begins with how species survive and how they change and adapt to the environment they're given. Natural selection acts on the traits of the DNA, and this section just goes into different why do some species and why do some members of that species survive when others do not. So all sorts of limitations that these organisms have to live within. Okay, you've got the freezing temperatures limit the range of this cactus species. Different tolerance limits, you see. Some species can make it, but then most of them have to live in this optimal range. But we do have our species that can live outside those ranges. Generalists and specialists. Well, the panda bear is a specialist, and it has specific requirements. And if its requirements, if its food source is gone, it can't really find another one quickly and adapt. So it will be gone. So generalists will be the survivors. Specialists are the ones that are having trouble these days with extinction and endangerment problems. All sorts of competitive ideas, competition between species and how they survive, how a species develops, and usually that occurs through types of isolation. There are different types of isolation, and this section goes over different types of isolating mechanisms. Usually when you have a large population and that population is separated somehow, you get new species from that one distinct population that used to all be just one species. So this section basically covers the different ideas of isolating mechanisms, and you can read through this and get an idea of how species form. Taxonomy is just the field of science that names organisms, and Carl Linnaeus was the founding father of the binomial nomenclature, or the genus species name to naming organism. Taxonomy, not only is it the field of science that names the organism, it's the field of science that classifies these organisms into their groups. So, how these organisms are related gives us our phylogenetic tree. Okay, so if you're into naming and if you're into classifying, taxonomy is what you might like to do. species interactions, very interesting section of this chapter. Talks about all sorts of competitions and species relationships. Herbivory, well, we see that some of the plants have to evolve against herbivory. They have made chemical compounds where organisms that feed on their leaves, they get poisoned, and so the organism doesn't feed on the leaf anymore. So plants, are always into competition with other organisms that feed on them, and they evolved and adapt to this kind of a competition and predation. Just some more types of relationships and adaptations. Like I said, chemicals are a big thing that organisms evolve. And usually organisms co-evolve. If a plant needs a specific type of an animal for pollination, it will evolve, and then the animal or the specific organism that pollinates that plant will also evolve. So that's coevolution. There are also different types of mimicry, and this section talks about the mimicry. More defense mechanisms here: camouflage, symbiotic relationships. Most of us have heard of mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. We've got the symbiotic relationships here. We've got mutualism with the lichen and where the lichen is a fungal organism, but it also contains algae, and it gives the lichen its distinct color sometimes, and they work together to survive. One benefits from the other's presence. Just like in this picture here, we've got this impala, where this bird is eating the parasites off the impala. Well, they're both benefiting. Then you have this bromeliad, which grows on trees, and it's benefiting by being up in the tree and getting all the raindrops and the protection from the tree, but the tree doesn't get anything. The tree doesn't get anything from the bromeliad. So anyway, this is just some really interesting relationships. Different types of population growth is discussed in the chapter here. We have a exponential J-curve growth, where carrying capacity of the environment is steady until we have an overpopulation, which actually causes starvation. If they overshoot the carrying capacity, then the organisms have a dieback because they starve. The carrying capacity cannot handle too many in the population, so those organisms die, and then this just keeps happening over and over again. And you can see the decline of what it's doing to the environment. It's basically making the environmental resources decline if we have this problem of overpopulation, and then a drastic dieback, and then a overpopulation. It's severe. A way to handle that is to bring in a predator. And when the prey have a good reproductive year and their population goes up, then you'll see an increase in the predator population. And then the predators eat the prey, and then eventually it basically levels out. We don't get these high spikes too much anymore, and the carrying capacity can kind of stay at a steady keel or maintain. See, it's basically it gives you the S curve, the logistic growth curve, when you do have the predator-prey relationship. But if you remove the predator, then you have the J curve, the exponential growth and habitat destruction. Then we have also different types of limitations to population size and what causes that. And diversity of species, big debate in Washington. Why do we need so many rainforests, or why do we have to protect the ocean? Because we need to have all the diversity. The more diverse it is, the better it is for everybody. So everybody contributes. You can have diversity in many different levels of the habitat that you're studying. And this is just showing you different types of ecotones and habitats and how complex things are. And you need to, read about the various productivity levels in the various ecosystems. And then we have our succession. This section talks about succession and what happens when you have a fire in a wilderness, and how it, everything's burned away, and then how you have things growing back. What begins first and starts to, provide nutrients to the soil, and then you have, the next group of organisms starting to grow, and eventually you get your forest back. But it takes a long time, especially when we go out and we wipe out and we clear cut and just, it's tough. If we do it, look how slow it is to recover. If nature does it, for instance, this might have been a fire, look how everything's growing back. But if we do it and we go in and cut everything down, it may never come back. So, you just have to understand, people, this is environmental conservation, and we have to protect, we have to replant. If we destroy a habitat, we have to go in there and try to fix it. So hopefully you'll get a lot out of this chapter. And I'll see you next time.